soak as well into the wood as a more natural based oil, such as maybe like this is an almond oil blend, but a lot of times some may use like olive oil, depending. Like you would want to talk to your repair technician about what they recommend. So at Atlanta Pro Woods, when I talk to Neil, he usually recommends kind of like an almond oil olive oil blend, or just almond oil by itself. Though there might be something. I think when I had a student with a nut allergy, avocado oil actually, I think works similarly too.
Avocado oil.
Yeah. So, which thankfully you can get this at usually most grocery stores. Almond oil is a little harder to find, but thankfully you can find it online. So what Sean is doing is he's using actually a slightly different kind of swab. So rather than like something being made out of like microfiber, or in this case,
that's just regular cloth.
Yeah, I can't remember what kind of material this is, but this is like more of a felt in a sense. For oboes and bassoons, oftentimes they'll actually oil their instruments with like a bird feather of sorts, because their oboe's bore gets so small towards the end that you can't really pull a swab through the whole thing, so they end up having to use a feather. So felt is a nice absorbent material that's going to help us apply an even layer of wood on the inside, even layer of oil on the inside of the wood. Now, how does that feel? Just pretty even all the way around?
Yeah, it should.
Hands feel nice and slimy?
Yes.
So the main thing that I want to keep in mind as I'm doing this is I don't want the oil to touch the pads, and I don't want it to touch the cork. So when you go to a repair tech's shop and get your horn like just looked at routinely every like once a year or something like that, they may oil the instrument for you. But like say during the winter months when it can get especially dry, you can sort of not troubleshoot, but sort of hit this off at the pass before your instrument goes into too much danger of cracking. All oiling does is it helps just regulate the moisture inside the instrument, and helps protect it. So what we're going to do is we're going to work part by part. So Sean's going to start off with the bell. And he can start off by literally just running it through just like he would any other swab.
It's like I'm being told what to do.
And then, yes, so what he's going to start to do is work around the inside because the swab's not going to get everything. So it may need a little bit of help to get all the little nooks and crannies, so to speak. And then he'll get a little bit of the outside too, especially because the bell doesn't have any pads or anything for us to worry about. Now, what I had him do to start off with is maybe put like 7 or so drops on the cloth before he goes to work, because a little bit of oil goes a long way. We don't want to like douse the whole thing in oil. That's just going to leave a lot of drippage. And so we're just looking for a very thin but even layer of oil on the inside and outside. Okay, how's that look? Let's see for 1 second. Does that look different?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think these the wood on some of these Royal Global ones has already kind of a sheen to it to begin with. But yeah, you're not looking for like a crazy difference. So you can kind of see that sort of like slight reflectiveness to it a little bit. We don't want it to be like dripping off the sides or anything like that. We just want a little bit. Cool. And I'm gonna go ahead and add just maybe like 4 or 5 more. What's up?
When you oil the instrument, you have to get at least a day or 2 days?
I would say at least a day. 2 days would be safe, especially if it ends up being a slightly thicker layer than you intended. You're just wanting the oil to finish absorbing into the instrument before you start playing it again.
Okay.
And you really only need to do this for wooden instruments, especially in Georgia, maybe like once to twice a year sort of thing. If we were in a much drier climate, yes, like 2 or 3 times. But in this case, 1 to 2 ends up being fine. So we can continue in the fashion of just simpler parts by going onto the barrel. When we get to the joints in particular, This is something that definitely a repair technician is going to be able to do a much more thorough job, because they're going to be able to take all the keys off, oil underneath the pads in particular, because a lot of times when we play our instruments, right, you can see how with older instruments, especially ones that are more worn, that the tone holes get particularly dry.
What do you mean?
So if you look up real close, parts like here look a little bit more hydrated than right underneath the tone hole, because there's a lot of air that flows through those tone holes. So naturally the tone holes might tend to dry out a little bit quicker than the body of the instrument itself. Wherever air is going to pass through, that's where the surfaces are going to tend to dry out.
Oh no.
In fact, what I'm about to do this weekend, which I wouldn't recommend any of y'all do. This is something that a repair technician would do. But I'm going to take off all my keys on my clarinet this weekend and just take a Q-tip and just oil around all the tone holes.
You should teach me how to do that. You should teach me how to do that.
Maybe we'll take a studio class and I'll demonstrate that for y'all.
I'm gonna skin your
Oh,
clarinet.
how was your performance the other night?
It was great. It was very weird playing in an environment where it was just not a classical recital. It was a lot of very like avant-garde rock and like jazz and various other things, and then in the middle of that, electroacoustic clarinet.
Speaking of that, I heard I forgot the name of it. It was for electric bass clarinet.
Yeah,
It's called Dark Matter.
Dark Matter's
Dark
great.
Matter.
It's great. It's
Maybe-
awesome. Great.
I want
It's
to play
great.
sheet music like
Great.
that.
Seeing this in particular is a really great shape. So this is something that you can tell is like very well hydrated all the way around. There's no excess drippage or anything like that. Brand new. So now when he goes on to these, the main part is to get the inside, because again, that's where the air is passing through, and that's where a lot of that dryness is going to occur. So the main thing is that we want to run it through, maybe get like a little bit up inside the tenon, a little bit, and then if you have a little bit of oil on the swab still, then you can kind of like run it around various parts of the external part of the instrument. Again, as long as you're being careful not to touch the pads.
So what will happen if it touches pads?
Nothing crazy. The pad's not going to explode, but it's going to, it's just going to kind of absorb into the pad and potentially kind of mess it up in terms of the seal that's created. So it's just going to endanger the lifespan of the pad, if anything.
Okay.
Is it alright if it touches the keys?
It's okay if it touches the keys. Yeah. So if you accidentally like get a finger on like one of the pinky keys or something like that, it's not the end of the world. It's metal, so it's not gonna get ruined by a little bit of olive oil.
Should start better. This key.
We definitely need to oil that.
Yeah. Or carrot.
We can do that Monday.
Wow, this
And yeah, you can get a little bit of that too. Again, as long as you're not touching the cork, you're all good.
worst part.
Okay. Tuesday will be the best day for me.
Well, I was gonna say just maybe like, let's see, because you're, oh no, because you're sick. Because I was gonna say that's something we could spend maybe the last like 5 to 10 minutes of your lesson doing, but I can't remember. Do you have anything after a lesson? Or do you play?